Hello friends, how are you? Welcome you all to the Economics or Finance Excellency batch. Okay, so what we have been discussing about is we have been discussing about the two-sector model of Keynesian theory of national income. I hope whatever we have studied you have revised thoroughly and that is absolutely clear to you people, right? So this is what we studied in the two-sector model, that it is a hypothetical sector, right? Why it is a hypothetical sector? Because practically if we look at without the government sector, there is no possibility of existence of an economy. So in the two-sector model, the Keynes says there are only two sectors. One is the household, another one is the business sector. So aggregate demand is equal to what we will be demanding. We can be demanding the consumer goods or the investment goods. That's it, right? In the short run, the investment goods will remain constant. Then we say that the consumption is a function of income, because whatever the disposable income you will have in hand, according to that only you will consume the goods, right? So C is equal to A plus BY, where A is what? A is a constant. A is what? A is the minimum expenditure, that is known as autonomous expenditure also, right? This A is also known as autonomous expenditure, right? That means that expenditure which is not dependent upon the level of income, right? That is why we say even at zero level of income, there will be some expenditure which is being defined by A. So A plus BY will give the autonomous expenditure. So what is MPC? MPC is the change in consumption due to the change in income, and APC is total consumption in relation to total income. Then we discussed about the savings function, right? So this was your savings. So total income is a function of consumption and savings. This is your consumption. So we say whatever you are earning, you will either spend on consuming the goods or you will save that money, right? So that is why Y is the total income, C is consumption, and S is savings. Okay, after that we have studied about the MPS also. This is MPS. This is MPS. Then we studied about the APS also. APS is total savings to total income. Total savings divided by total income, right? This all we have discussed in the previous lectures. Then in the last lecture, we discussed about the equilibrium income in the two-sector model. So where the aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, and I have proved that with the equational form, right? So I is equal to S. So what is the level of income? The level of income is where either C plus I or C plus S, right? That will be the level of equilibrium level of income. We'll do it with the practical problems also. Okay, so this much we have already done in the previous lectures and it must be clear to you, right? Now, before we move on to the investment multiplier, there is a topic in the module that is, we'll cover this and the practical part in this lecture. This topic is equilibrium with unemployment or inflation. He says, it is important to remember that the Keynesian equilibrium with the equality of planned aggregate expenditure, that is aggregate demand, and the output, that is aggregate supply. That is what we say as per the Keynesian theory. We say where is the equilibrium, where the aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, need not take place at full employment. He says it is not necessary that wherever this equilibrium is taking place, it is at full employment. Let's say, for example, what he wants to say, he says if there is full employment in the economy, if there is full employment, right, at this full employment, firms can manufacture, let's say 1000 units, right? This is just an example. I say if it is fully employed, the firms can manufacture 1000 units, but the aggregate demand is only for 700 units. Now, is this equilibrium? No, sir, because aggregate supply will then be for 1000 units and the aggregate demand will be for 7000 units. Is it equilibrium? No, it is not an equilibrium. Now, to attain the equilibrium, what will happen? The firms will cut down on production because they want this aggregate supply to be equivalent to 700 units. The firms will cut down on production, right? And the second thing that they will do is, if they are cutting down on production, obviously they will need less labor for the production, isn't it? If they are not manufacturing 1000 units, they want to manufacture 700 units only, they will obviously cut down on the labor cost also, right? They will cut down on labor cost, right? They will cut down on labor cost through layoffs, isn't it? That will happen, sir. Now what happens, sir? After doing this, the aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. Now demand is for 700 units. The firm is also manufacturing 700 units. So according to Keynes, this is an equilibrium situation, isn't it? This is an equilibrium situation, but at the same time we say is there will be what? At the same time, there will be a situation of unemployment. There will be a situation of unemployment. That is what he meant here, that the equilibrium need not take place at full employment, right? So this gap shows when the demand is less than the supply. That means the people are not having that much of money to buy what the firms are supplying, right? So what is that? When does this happen? This is a deflationary gap, right? The economy is on the slowdown, right? This gap is known as deflationary gap. This is known as deflationary gap, right? Let's see. If the aggregate demand for an amount of output less than the full employment level of output was 1000 and the amount of output we demanded was 700 units, that is less than the full employment, then we say there is a deficient demand. The deficient demand gives rise to a deflationary gap or the recessionary gap. During the period of recession, what will happen, sir? You will have less disposable money, and if you will have less disposable money, obviously you will demand less of goods. Clear? Recessionary gap, also known as the contractionary gap, arises in the Keynesian model of the macroeconomy when the equilibrium level of aggregate production achieved in the short run falls short of what could be produced at the full employment. Recessionary gap occurs when the economy is in a business cycle contraction or recession. Simple concept, sir. When there is recession, what will happen? You will have less of money in hand, and when you will have less of money, your demand will fall. To meet that demand, the business will cut down on the output, and obviously if you are manufacturing less of output, you will need less of labor. They will cut down on the labor cost also through layoffs, right? So what will happen? There will be unemployment, and with that unemployment, they will try to reach the equilibrium level as per the Keynes, where the aggregate demand of 700 unit meets the aggregate supply of 700 units. Clear? So he has explained it with the diagram also. He says this OQ is at the full employment level. Now if you go at the full employment level, this is the level that you can generate. This should be the aggregate demand, because this is the output that can be there, right? But the aggregate demand is, let's say, G or E. E is the aggregate demand. Let's say E is the aggregate demand. This is your full employment output. This is your full employment output. Now what will happen, sir? What will happen? The firms will cut down on the labor cost. This is the deflationary gap. That shows the deflationary gap, sir. Let's say OQ star is the full employment level of output. For the economy to be at full employment equilibrium, the aggregate demand should be Q star F. This should be actually, if you want the equilibrium level. If the aggregate demand is O star Q star G, he says if this is the aggregate demand, it represents a situation of deficit demand, right? If the demand is this Q star G, obviously there is a deficit which is known as deflationary gap. You are not demanding equal to F. This F is what the firms can manufacture, right? But you are demanding less than that. He says the resulting deflationary gap is FG. The firms will experience the unplanned buildup of inventories of the unsold goods, and they will respond by cutting the production and employment, cutting down on the employment, leading to decrease in output and the income until the underemployment equilibrium is reached at E. They will cut down on everything. They will cut down on the output also, right? They will cut down on the employment also, until and unless there is an equilibrium level of this is achieved, right? To cover the deflationary gap. This is the deflationary gap, and to cover this gap, they will cut down on everything. They will cut down on this output until and unless a situation is reached where there is equilibrium. At this level, this is your equilibrium as per Keynes, that is aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. Clear? I hope this much is clear to you. Now, the similar, okay, further we can read. After that, we'll move on to inflationary gap. The deflationary gap is thus a measure of the extent of deficiency of aggregate demand, and it causes the economy's income, output and employment to decline, thus pushing the economy to underemployment equilibrium, right? So at this equilibrium level, there will be unemployment, there will be underemployment. The macro equilibrium occurs at a level of GDP less than the potential GDP. Thus, there is a cyclical unemployment, that is, the rate of unemployment is higher than the natural rate. Demand deficient unemployment is the same as cyclical unemployment, right? Nothing, basically what he is trying to say is that there will be unemployment, okay? Demand deficient unemployment. Demand deficient unemployment is that the aggregate demand is less than the full potential demand, right? That is why it is a demand, due to demand there is unemployment. Clear? After that, the next we have is inflationary gap. The reverse, the opposite of deflationary is inflationary gap. That what will happen, sir? In the case of inflationary gap, your full potential output is 1000 units at full employment. Your aggregate demand is for 1200 units, right? So the demand is more than this. Now what will happen? The prices will increase. When the demand is more than supply, in this case, aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply, right? Now they can increase the supply, they will not increase the real supply, they will increase the prices so that in the terms the aggregate demand meets aggregate supply. Let's try to understand. If the aggregate demand is for an amount of output greater than the full employment level, then we can say there is excess demand. The excess demand gives rise to the inflationary gap. We say there is an inflation in the economy. When is the inflation? When the demand for goods is more than the supply for the goods, right? People need more of goods. They can buy it at a costly price also, right? And the firms, what they do? They increase the prices. In that case, the firms increase the prices, which is the amount by which the actual aggregate demand exceeds the level of aggregate demand required to establish the full employment equilibrium. This is a sort of gap that tends to occur during a business cycle expansion and sets in motion forces that will cause the demand pull inflation. Demand pull inflation means due to the increased demand, due to the demand being more than the supply, there is an inflation situation in the economy. The prices are increasing. So this is the diagram that he has given. He says, in the figure, the economy will be at full employment equilibrium at F. This is the full employment equilibrium, that if everyone is employed and the demand is equal to this will be with OQ star full employment level of output. This is the full employment level of output. Suppose the aggregate demand is Q star G. Let's say the aggregate demand is this. This is your aggregate demand. Now what will happen? This is the full level output potential and this is the aggregate demand. This is 1000 units and this is 1200 units, right? That means you need to increase this to reach an equilibrium level of E. Now this will be the equilibrium level where aggregate demand will be equal to aggregate supply. There is excess demand and the resulting inflationary gap FG, right? This is the inflationary gap. That means the more demand than the potential. The real output will be constant, but the rise in the price level will cause an increase in the nominal output until the new equilibrium is reached at point E. Now he says the real output means the number of units are going to remain constant, but with the increase in prices, with the increase in income, the nominal output is the change in the value of output due to increase in the prices, right? That is what is known as nominal output. Real output is in the quantity form. In the quantity, if I increase the number of units from 1000 to 1200, that is a real output. But he says the potential with the full employment potential is 1000 only. How can you increase the real output? That is not possible. He says instead of real output, let's increase the nominal output. Clear? So the nominal output has increased. It is increasing until and unless this point is reached. Point E is an equilibrium point because the aggregate demand ME is equal to the output at the new equilibrium level. The real output, real income and employment will be the same. Only the nominal output and income has increased due to inflation. The prices will increase according to the demand. Demand will remain same. The actual demand will remain same. But how this equilibrium level will achieve? Because of the inflation, the increase in the prices. That will lead to the equilibrium. So in the Keynesian model, neither the wages nor the interest rate will decline in the face of abnormally high unemployment and excess capacity. Therefore, the output will remain at less than the full employment rate as long as there is insufficient spending in the economy. The Keynes argued that this was precisely what was happening during the Great Depression. Now, what is he trying to say? He says neither wages or interest rate will decline in the face of abnormally high unemployment. If there is high unemployment, the wages or the interest rates, or if there is excess capacity, right, the wages and the interest rates will not fall. Output will remain at less than the full employment. The output, because the aggregate demand, as long as there is insufficient spending in the economy, he says the output will always be less than the full employment because the demand will always be less than the full employment. And this is what happened during the Great Depression. The Great Depression shows the deflationary gap, that less of demand. The Great Depression was what? When the economy was on the downfall. The economy was downfall. That means you will have less disposable money in hand. Less disposable money in hand means you will spend less, isn't it? And when you will be spending less, that means you are demanding less. Aggregate demand will be less than the supply. And for that, what will happen, sir? What will happen? The output will be at less than full employment. Output will be at less than full employment. That is but logical, as we have studied in the case of deflationary gap. Clear? So this was one topic to be covered, that is equilibrium with unemployment or inflation. Now what we are going to do is we are going to do some practical problems here given in the module itself. Right, there is one practical problem, that is this numerical illustrations number 1. Side by side we'll be covering these numerical problems so that you get better understanding. What will be the value of average propensity to save when C is equal to 200 and Y is equal to 1000? So what is the average propensity to save? That is total savings divided by total income, right? Total savings denoted by S, total income by Y. Now Y is C plus S, as we have studied. Y is given as 1000, C is given as 200 plus S. So the value of S here is 800, right? Value of S here is, so APS will be what? 800 divided by 1000. Let's see, 0.8. Clear? Then if S and Y is given to you directly, then APS is simple. APS is what? S divided by Y, that is 450 divided by 1200. 0.375. Simple. Very simple illustration, straightforward. Nothing as such. Let's move on to illustration number 2 now. Let's see. Illustration number 2. Calculate marginal propensity to consume, that is MPC. What is MPC? MPC is change in consumption due to change in income, and the marginal propensity to save, that is MPS. MPS is what? 1 minus MPC, or MPC, or what we can say 1 minus B, or we can say or change in savings due to change in income, right? Which is in equilibrium. National income is 2500. This is your Y, total income. Autonomous consumption expenditure. What is autonomous consumption expenditure? This is A, right? Which is independent of the level of income. That is what I told you just here. What is A? What is A? A is autonomous expenditure. Autonomous consumption expenditure, right? Autonomous consumption expenditure, that is even at the zero level of income you will have some expenditure. Now investment expenditure is 100. This is your I, right? This is what is given to you. Now you need to calculate MPC, right? How can you calculate MPC? Sir, we say Y is equal to C plus I, isn't it? C plus I we say. Sir, how is it possible, sir? C, Y is equal to C plus I. Whatever is the total income, you can demand the consumer goods or the investment goods. Further, we say that C, that is the consumption. Consumption is a function of income. We write this consumption as A plus BY, isn't it? A plus BY. What say? Can we write it? Plus I is equal to Y. So this is what he has, he must have done it like this, right? So what is the level, this Y? Y is 2500, A is 300 plus B 2500 is the Y plus investment is 100, right? So from here what we can get is 2500B is equal to 2500 minus 400, that is 2500B is equal to 2100. So what is the value of B from here? That is 2100 divided by 2500, right? So 2100 divided by 2500, that comes to 0.84. Now B is what? B is nothing but your MPC. So how can you calculate the MPS now? MPS will be 1 minus MPC, that is 0.16. Let's see, 0.16 and 0.84. Clear? Absolutely clear. So you need to apply whatever we have studied so far. That is why I prepared this summary. This summary is definitely going to help you. This way you can write down the summaries, right? This is really helpful in solving the question. So we are done with illustration number 2. Let's move on to illustration number 3 quickly. An economy is in equilibrium. Okay. Calculate the national income from the following. The autonomous consumption, that is A is equal to 100. Marginal propensity to save is 0.2. Investment expenditure is 200. Right? So what is he says, calculate the national income. National income is you need to calculate Y. Now when the investment expenditure is given, what you will do, and A is given, that means you need to use the function Y is equal to C plus I. Again C plus I. What is C here now? C is A plus BY plus investment, isn't it? Y. Okay, now what is A? A is given as 100 and this investment is given as 200. What is BY? For BY, what is B? B is marginal propensity to consume. What is given? You are given marginal propensity to save. Right? What is given to you? You are given marginal propensity to save. Can you calculate MPC from here? MPC is 1 minus MPS. Right? That is 1 minus 0.2. That will be 0.8. Clear? So plus 0.8 Y. I can write it like this. Any doubts in this thing? So I will take it here now. Y minus 0.8 Y. Any doubts? 0.2 Y is equal to 300. So Y is equal to 300 divided by 0.2. 300 divided by 0.2, that comes to 1500. Clear? This was the requirement of the question. Y is equal to 1500. Right? Why we used this C plus I? Because sir, investment was given, autonomous consumption was given. That means clearly you have to calculate the national income using the consumption function. So these are the things you need to be careful about how to start with it. Let's move on to illustration number 4. Suppose the consumption of an economy is given by C is equal to 20 plus 0.6y, that is A plus BY, and the investment is given by 10 plus 0.2y. What will be the equilibrium level of national income? Now we say at equilibrium level y is equal to C plus I, right? Y is equal to C plus I. National income is equal to consumption plus investment. Now y is equal to, what is C? C is 20 plus 0.6y plus what is investment? 10 plus 0.2y, right? So here it will be is equal to 30 plus 0.8y. I'll take the y on the other side. Y minus 0.8y is equal to 30. 0.2y is equal to 30. So y will be 30 divided by 0.2, that is 150. Clear? Very simple, straightforward. Any doubts? Let's move on to illustration number 5. Suppose the consumption function is C is equal to 7 plus 0.75y and investment is 100. Find out the equilibrium level of income, consumption and saving. Right? So what is here? Again, you will be using y is equal to C plus I because it is given. C is given as 7 plus 0.5y plus investment is 100. Y here. So y minus 0.5y is equal to 107, that is 0.5y is equal to 107. So from here the y can be 107 divided by 0.5. 107 divided by 0.5, that is 214. So this is the level of income that we have calculated. Now he says calculate the consumption. What will be the consumption? Consumption is 7 plus 0.5 this way plus the y value I will substitute as 214. Right? 214. So this is 7 plus 107, that is 114. Now he says calculate savings. How to calculate savings? So total income is equal to consumption plus saving. Total income is 214, consumption is 114 plus savings. From here, what will be your savings? That will be 100. Clear? So very simple application of what we have done. Basically, you have to revise that and you have to just apply it according to the given in the question, right? Now, illustration number 6 is absolutely same as illustration number 5, that consumption function is given. I is given, he says find out the equilibrium level of Y, C and S. Absolutely same. No need to follow what is given here. No need, just do it the normal way. Normal way, Y is equal to C plus I, right? C is given as 250 plus 0.80y. Actually, what is done here is absolutely same, right? But you might get confused, so do it however you feel it comfortable. That is very important, sir. That comes to 550. So 0.20y is equal to 550. So from here, y will be 550 divided by 0.2, that comes to 2750. Right? 2750 is your y. Now what will be C? C will be 250 plus 0.80 multiplied by 2750. That is 250 plus 2200. That is 2450. Right? So what will be the savings here? Savings will be total income minus the consumption. 2750 minus 2450. That comes to 300. 300 is your savings. Clear? So this was illustration number 6. Let's move on to illustration number 7. Now in the illustration number 7, he says if the saving function S is equal to minus 10 plus 0.2y and the autonomous investment is 50 crores, find out the equilibrium level of income, consumption, and if the investment increases permanently by 5 crores, that is 55 crores, by 5 crores, what will be the new level of income and consumption? Now, be very careful here. Now, what is given here? The saving function is given to you here. The consumption function is not given. Now, he says calculate the equilibrium level of income. At equilibrium level of income, we say that savings, what we say? Savings is equal to investment. What is saving? Minus 10 plus 0.2y is equal to investment of 50 crores. Right? So, I can say 0.2y is equal to 50 plus 10. Right, so y is equal to 60 divided by 0.2. 60 divided by 0.2, that is 300. So this is the level of income. Now how can you calculate? First calculate savings, then calculate the consumption, right? 300, is it 300? Yes sir, 300 crores. Now consumption is equal to y minus savings. What is savings? Minus 10 plus 0.2, y is 350, c is 250 crores. Now you can calculate for the if the investment increases by 5 crores, that means now the investment is 55 crores. So accordingly you can calculate your income and consumption. Clear? So this is a little bit different variety than what we were doing in the illustration number 5 and 6. So this was little bit different. I hope this much is clear. Illustration number 8 is absolutely same. Illustration number 8 as we have done illustration number 5 and 6, right? So we are done with up till this we are done with all the illustrations. Now in the next lecture we will do with the investment multiplier, a very important, very simple topic. Then we will move on to the 3 sector and 4 sector economy, right? So see you guys in the next lecture. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy, keep studying, keep sharing. Thank you so much.